Hello and welcome to Judging by the Cover, where we'll be judging 12 Switch by the cover. I know this series has occasionally drifted from its stated remit to assess the effectiveness of cover art to areas of wild speculation about giant rednecks and fish with the heads of Vin Diesel, so this week I'd like to start by getting back to basic principles. What is the purpose of a cover? 1, to bring across a broad sense of the content and theme of the product, and 2, to make the product enticing to potential buyers. To summarise, 1, what is it? 2, why do we want it? Let's see how 1-2 Switch does with that particular 1-2 punch. Let's focus on 1 for now, it being the largest and uppermost of the numbers currently displayed. What is this? Well, at first glance, we have an abstract depiction of a situation split into 3 layers, Inception style. At the top lies surface reality, in which Moss from the IT crowd has been trying in vain to hatch his baby pheasant, only to be distracted from his intense concentration by a smiling woman. Although, tracking the angle of his eyes, he's more interested in her bangs than her face. Perhaps he's noticed, as I have, that the gap between her bangs and the rest of her hair is shaped uncannily like a sailboat. He keeps his thoughts to himself, either because he's no one to throw stones in the hair department, or because he forgot to put his lenses in his spectacles and can't be sure he's seeing it properly. That does probably explain why the ocean of mushy peas in the background is so blurry. For her part, the smiling lady is leaning her face towards some kind of shiny red mass that's just peering into shot. The possible explanations for the red mass are too numerous to list. The first 2 that came to my mind is that she's about to tuck into a delicious gelatin dessert, or she's wearing a chest harness containing a very, very angry baby. It is left to us now to decide what the overall message of this adventure was. The baby and unborn pheasant interpretation speak to a theme of single parenthood and the lime green excitement that bubbles between 2 people as they meet eye to hairline and realise that their single days may soon be over. Or the egg and red gelatin scenario may indicate that shortly 2 lovebirds will be enjoying each other's desserts. Let's leave that for now and descend to the next layer, where 2 faceless individuals are competing to see who can open their garage door the fastest. No doubt victory will be decided when one of the 2 parties realises they're supposed to be pressing one of the buttons. That's about all we have for now, so let's scoot right on down to the deepest and most dramatic layer of reality, where a most perplexing scene is taking place. 2 wholesome young adults appear to be making mutual finger guns, as if to say, "Nice outfit! Now all we need is a Buzz Lightyear." Their body language is expressing a levity entirely missing from their facial expressions, which are twisted into matching sneers of undisguised contempt. They look like a brother and sister who've been forced to apologise and shake hands by their mum. With your entire hands, not just your fingertips. Now, some of you are probably thinking that the costumes indicate this to be a representation of an old-timey quick-draw contest, albeit with the guns airbrushed out by some moralising censor or another. But I dispute this, as there's not enough space between the hands for 2 guns. They'd need to be getting right up in each other's barrels, and that's a good way to get a venereal disease. But let's take a step back and consider what the image as a whole is supposed to be bringing across. What is the relationship between the 3 scenarios on display? Are the 2 people at the top secretly thinking about pointing garage door remotes at each other, and that those garage door remotes are in turn secretly imagining themselves as poorly equipped cowboys? Or is it the other way around? Is Cowboy World actual reality? And the 2 cowboys long to put aside their differences in a mutual exchange of consumer electronics and one day create a world where people can hatch pheasants and infuriate babies in an environment of peace and understanding. Perhaps this is less a depiction of multiple layers of reality and more a linear sequence of events, a before and after, if you will. Somehow the first scenario has turned into the third by way of the second. Maybe the couple at the top were getting along fine until they realised their garage door remotes were incompatible colours, and the only option then was invisible pistols at dawn. Or perhaps the hands holding the remotes in Image 2 belonged to a pair of disgruntled television watchers who grew sick of non-threatening middle-class people exchanging knowing smiles and gelatin dessert tips and switched over to the historical violence channel. That's about all I've got in answer to question 1, what are we looking at? So let's move on to question 2, should we buy it? Well, thankfully that question has a much more straightforward answer. A one-word answer even. Hell, let's do it with no words and a weird mouth noise.